In December 2025, a single oil tanker became the center of a global geopolitical moment. Off the coast of Venezuela, U.S. authorities seized a tanker accused of violating international sanctions, a move that immediately sent ripples through global oil markets. Prices reacted within hours, diplomatic tensions escalated within days, and energy analysts around the world began asking the same question. Was this simply sanctions enforcement or a calculated geopolitical message? Oil is not just a commodity, it is leverage. It shapes alliances, finances governments, and influences the stability of entire regions. The seizure of a Venezuelan oil tanker was not an isolated incident. It was a signal to Caracas, a signal to global energy markets, and a signal to every nation navigating sanctions in a multipolar world. According to U.S. officials, the tanker was carrying Venezuelan crude oil in violation of long-standing sanctions targeting the country's energy exports. The vessel was intercepted and seized under U.S. authority, citing breaches of international sanctions enforcement mechanisms. The operation was swift, but its implications were anything but small. For Washington, the move reinforced its commitment to strict sanctions enforcement. For Caracas, it was viewed as an escalation, a challenge to sovereignty and economic survival. And for global markets, it raised immediate concerns about supply stability. Venezuela holds some of the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, yet decades of mismanagement, underinvestment, and sanctions have crippled its production capacity. Despite this, Venezuelan crude remains strategically important. Even marginal supply disruptions can move prices, especially in tight global markets. When oil markets are already balancing demand recovery, geopolitical risk, and OPEC coordination, every barrel matters. This is why the tanker seizure resonated far beyond Venezuela's shores. Sanctions are only as effective as their enforcement. In recent years, enforcement has increasingly shifted to the seas. Oil tankers, mobile, anonymous, and difficult to track, have become central to sanctions evasion strategies. The U.S. seizure underscored a broader trend: maritime enforcement as geopolitical power projection. By targeting shipping, the U.S. extends its influence far beyond borders into global trade routes themselves. Within hours of the seizure, oil prices reacted, not dramatically, but noticeably. Markets are not only driven by supply and demand, they are driven by expectations. The seizure reminded traders that geopolitical risk remains embedded in energy pricing. Analysts warn that tighter enforcement could restrict flows not just from Venezuela, but from other sanctioned producers. Energy security once again became headline news. Relations between Washington and Caracas have long been defined by oil and ideology. Sanctions were designed to pressure Venezuela's leadership toward political reform, but they have also deepened economic hardship for ordinary citizens. The tanker seizure raised a critical question: is sanctions pressure producing political change or entrenching stalemate? The answer remains contested. OPEC and its allies carefully manage output to stabilize prices, but geopolitical shocks complicate that calculus. The seizure added uncertainty, particularly for countries watching how aggressively sanctions are enforced. In energy markets, perception often matters as much as production. Sanctions are modern tools of statecraft. They allow powerful nations to exert pressure without military confrontation, but their use raises questions about global fairness, sovereignty, and unintended consequences. The tanker seizure reflects a larger shift. The world is moving toward a more fragmented energy system. More sanctions, more enforcement, more geopolitical risk. Countries are diversifying energy sources, payment systems, and alliances. Oil remains central, but its politics are evolving. Beyond immediate market reactions, the tanker seizure highlights a deeper tension shaping the global energy transition. As nations invest in renewables, oil remains the backbone of geopolitical influence, particularly for states facing sanctions. Energy transitions are not happening in a vacuum. They are unfolding alongside power struggles, security concerns, and strategic competition. The incident underscores a paradox of the modern energy era. Even as the world talks about moving beyond oil, control over oil routes, enforcement mechanisms, and maritime power continues to shape global diplomacy. The seizure of a Venezuelan oil tanker in December 2025 was more than an enforcement action. It was a reminder that energy remains deeply political. For the U.S., it reaffirmed sanctions credibility. For Venezuela, it tightened economic pressure. For global markets, it reintroduced geopolitical risk into pricing models. Understanding these dynamics is essential, not just for investors and policymakers, but for anyone navigating a world where energy and power remain inseparable. For deeper analysis on global geopolitics, energy markets, sanctions policy, and strategic risk, visit nexusinsight.org. Subscribe.